So the couches in my grandma's house are really uncomfortable. And they're really ugly, too. She's gone to glory, but I can still picture those couches in her house. A testament to the decor of the 1970s, which mustard-colored paisley and really rough fabric seemed to be very popular. She knew they weren't comfortable. I had told her dozens of times after waking up in the morning, and I know I had a lot of cousins who told her the same thing. So that didn't seem to matter. But I can tell you it did matter. Every child, grandchild, great-grandchild, aunt, uncle, cousin, girlfriend, boyfriend, you name it, had all sat on those couches on a Sunday afternoon, talking, laughing, eating, watching NASCAR and Carolina basketball. The couches didn't really matter, but the people on them sure did. So we keep that in mind as we look at the trouble the rich man was having when Jesus told him to sell his stuff. We know it's not just the rich man. He just happens to be the one that ran up to Jesus this afternoon. He knew that there had to be more than just rules and laws to get you into the kingdom. And the rich man really wanted it. He'd been devout since his youth. But when it came to shedding the material things that humans amass, he couldn't do it. But again, it's not just him. Jesus tells the disciples no mortal can get into the kingdom. That's crazy. No mortal. But God can. The immortal can. So how can we look at the example of the rich man in Jesus' words and seek that immortality, that union with God? So first we have to realize the man's wealth, it's not just money. In many cases, money is the manifestation of our hard work. When anyone works hard to receive payment, it is often the sum of their mental and physical energy poured out over a period of time. Our hard work, training a skill, financial decisions, investments, etc., are all being used to amass wealth. This isn't a barrier to the kingdom in and of itself, but this process is something that we have to keep in mind. And we often experience it from a very young age. As soon as we're able to carry a broom, to take out the garbage, we start to do chores around the house. Earn a quarter here or a dollar there, sometimes accumulating what seems at the time can be a vast treasure. I know it'd be nice to be able to hold a $5 bill now and feel as exhilarated as I did when I was 7 or 8. All this is to say that we learn the value of money. We learn that it comes from work and dedication and finishing a task. But then comes the stuff, the possessions, the status symbols, the trophies, and more often than not, the things that get us in trouble. This is when we begin to develop relationships with stuff. We've poured ourselves into our work, so what we do with our money is very important. It is an expression of our priorities. It's how we show the world what we think is important. When we make a purchase, the transaction isn't just one book for $15. It's one book for an hour or two of carrying dishes in and out of a hot kitchen, of gathering data, doing research to make a presentation. So when we make that purchase, we're giving the cashier more than $15. Some people know the decision to buy something isn't one that is made lightly. Beyond just buying shelter, food, and utensils to consume it, a certain amount of thought must go into what it is that we're buying. We make conscious decisions on items for entertainment, on equipping our home for day-to-day living, and these are informed by our awareness of the depth at which our spending is rooted. So we think about the utility of items. How much use will they get? How many purposes will they serve? And then we think about who they will serve. Just us isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we can share our wealth and create community around possessions that reach beyond our personal satisfaction. Money by itself is just money. At its base in our society, it is a vehicle for transaction. There is nothing evil or good about a dollar bill. What is evil, what is misdirected, is when it becomes an idol, and when we begin to chase luxury. See, the stories in the Bible that we hear about material wealth aren't there to demonize the wealthy. In many places in the Bible, wealth is a sign of blessing, it's a sign of prudence, it's a sign that you are following the paths of the Lord. So we know it's not just wealth, but we do know that it is luxury. It's when humans try to create a cushy lifestyle that they spend more than a fair share on. They create excess, and they spend more on themselves than is needed. And when that happens, our lives are directed inward, into ourselves, into what Jesus would call our mortalness. And all the explaining I've been doing up to this point is to say this. Relationships with stuff is temporal. It's just for now. A glass will only ever be a glass. A shirt will only be a shirt. And a bag will only be a bag. And we are called to build up relationships around these things so that we know that the things are the important parts of our lives. The friend that you served tea to in that glass while she told you about her family's hardships is important. Remembering that you wore that shirt on your honeymoon with your spouse is important. Taking the bag on pilgrimage, getting a little bit of dirt from Jerusalem that won't come off is important. See, all these items have transcended a limited nature. Relationships and memories were built up around them, and those will never go away. Were we to lose the item, we would not lose the memory. And this is to say that the glass is well and good, but if Jesus asks us to leave it, we can leave it because we understand that it's not the important thing. In the short story entitled Navigators, a father and son team up to beat a video game that is called Legend of Silence. I'm going to quote from the story. Their game was called Legend of Silence. It was different from their other games, where the main character became more powerful as he explored. But the heroine of Legend of Silence was diminished by every artifact she found. The goal of the game was to lose everything so that one could enter nirvana. End quote. The main character of the game begins fully equipped, dangerous, and ready to go on a quest. But through the game she loses her sword, her arrows, her wings, then she loses her sight, she loses her hearing, and eventually the ability to walk upright. At first, it's frustrating and troubling for the father and son, but they begin to realize that through this process, she's being freed. She's being freed from the typical need to fight or destroy. She is no longer killing the enemies around her. She has become non-threatening, and she is allowed to walk through the world of the game. In the end, she enters the final stage by a crack in the wall that they had been walking by throughout the entire game. They hadn't noticed it. It was an opening that was there the entire time. She just had to become small enough and free enough to crawl through. I'd really like to be able to do that. To have lost everything or to have given it up, only to find that by doing so, I'm liberated. I'm free to see the eye of the needle that's always been near me and then easily walk in. No longer a camel trying to squeeze through. But I'm not there yet. I think it's a learning process that we have to go through. We begin to discern what our hard work can buy us. First, we spend it on ourselves because we did the hard work. We mature and begin to spend it on others because we care for them and know we are called to go beyond ourselves. We begin to see material things as a means for creating relationship. The items themselves only being the table we gather around to share stories. And our lives become dedicated to the people that are telling these stories. This is the goal. That by letting material possessions merely serve the purpose of facilitating relationship with other people, we are inviting the immortal into our mortal lives. We are inviting love, laughter, tears, passion, and all the emotions and feelings of our lives into participation in divine joy. Material things can facilitate these interactions, but they can also become idols. They don't have to, and we cannot stop with just the thing. We are called to move beyond the possessions, beyond wealth, and into relationship. So that when Jesus says to us, "Sell what you own, give the money to the poor, then come and follow me," we will not be losing anything. We will not be losing anything, but we will be gaining the kingdom.